Okay, good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? We started to talk about investing in our last video, and I pointed out the fact that investing is a long term endeavor, which means you have to be thinking very long term. Most of the time, I think where most Africans get it wrong is that we can't tell the difference between investing and speculating. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, just buy this; it's going to appreciate," and then many of us are jumping into that, and that's why many Africans, or most people in general, are very susceptible to HYIPs, that's high yield investment programs, that most of the time, 100% of the time are scams, because we're expecting that, oh, let me just put money within a few weeks, within a few months, I'll get, outsized returns. And this is something that you have to understand, that investing is a long game, which means you're creating building blocks for your future well-being. Now, most of the time, because most Africans are being taught to be very short-term minded, so we're not thinking about the future that much. But you have to think about the future in terms of not just yourself, but also your offspring. So, your children, they're going to grow up with certain needs and with certain direction. So, for example, when we were growing up, there were certain things our parents said to us that, most of the time conditioned our minds to certain parts, you know, and your understanding of the concept of investing will help you to put the right structures in place to help your kids and your offsprings, understand the importance of the actions of today on the results of tomorrow. So I said in last video that investment is not only about monetary investment, it's also about how you're investing your time, how you're investing into your health, how you're investing into your mental and physical well-being. And this entails many things, not just putting money into something. Sometimes much more than money is the importance of knowledge, being able to also find yourself in communities with people of like mind. So, for example, it is very likely for you to succeed when you're within the community of people thinking in the same terms, right? And that's why, investing is very broad. Many of us only think about stock, real estate, and so many other things. But the truth of the matter is, investing is very, very deep, and it encompasses every area of your life. Because, for example, you can also all you want all your life, and then when you've made a little money, you discover you have health issue you have to spend most of that money on, and this is where many of us find ourselves, because we are only investing in one direction, and this leaves us exposed in many ways, and that's why it's so important for us to understand why we need to focus on the process of investing as a broad subject. So, not just about making more money or making more money in your future, but also about your all around well being. Yes. So, which means that you have to sit down and draw up a plan, just like you did with your finance, your personal finance, with the budgeting and the saving and all. You need to sit down and ask yourself, what are the specifics of the future that I want? What kind of lifestyle do you want to lead? What kind of health choices do you want to make? What kind of um, activities you want to put your time into, and these things will determine to a large extent the kind of choices you're going to make. It's going to determine the places you're going to decide to go to or to live in, and so many other variables that then come together to increase the quality of your life. Yes. So it starts with, of course, the decision to craft out the specifics of what you want. Now, most of the time, because many of us had dreams and then we grow up, things changed. The dream didn't pan out the way we imagined. And then we say to ourselves that, well, I'm just going to live anyhow it comes, and that is very erroneous because you have to understand that life is incremental, which means if you plan for a certain level, when you reach that level, you have to plan for a higher level. In other words, if I want a certain outcome, so let me give an example. I've always wanted to have a lot of time with my family, which means if I was doing a 9 to 5 job, it would be a bit difficult for me to do that, especially in a country like Nigeria, where sometimes you're stuck in traffic for hours. Lagos, Nigeria, you're stuck in traffic for hours and all of that. But since 2018, I've been without a job, which means I've most of the time being at home, and it's giving me a lot of time with my family. I've had a lot of time with my kids, a lot of time with my wife, and this has also given me time to also invest in other things, other people, other activities, and the truth of the matter is that because I understood what I wanted to do with my life early, it helped me to make certain choices at different points in my life, right? And this is the essence of sitting down to craft out what the outcomes that you want is. So, for example, if you say, oh, you want to be able to travel the world, then it means that one of the things you will need for that is a travel document that gives you access to the world, right? So, for example, if you're Nigerian, your Nigerian passport is not very easy to get around the world with, right? So that means you might be thinking about getting a second passport, which is also an investment decision, right? I always say to people who are relocating abroad that it's an investment decision, and you have to fully understand the extent of the outcomes that you're looking at. So whether you're going to the UK or to Canada or to the US, you must understand why and why you are making that decision and what the outcomes that you seek for, you know, very specifically, because that will then help you determine what other variables you're going to decide upon, right? Now, this is where many people miss the point. They don't have a target, they don't have an end point in mind, so they just go with the flow. Now, there's no issue with going with the flow. The only thing is that sometimes the flow will take you in a direction that you don't want, but because you don't know what you want, you're not able to decipher when you're going somewhere else that you did not want. And that's why someone always says that the best way to get what you want is by knowing what you don't want, right? So you don't necessarily have to know all the details. So, for example, I said I wanted to have enough time with my family, which means, of course, I couldn't always have a 9 to 5 job. And that, for me, to a large extent, has been why I've always optimized for job roles and, work time that allows me to have flexibility of time, right? So today I control my time to a large extent, and that allows me to be able to spend time with my family. Now, having the control of your time doesn't always translate to the fact that you have more time for family. That also has to be a deliberate decision, which means you have to craft activities, you have to craft many things around that, because sometimes you can be at home. Since work from home started in 2020, we've had this illusion that we are now spending more time with our families, but most of the time that's not the case. So that's why it's so important for you to sit down and ask yourself, what are the specifics that I want for my life in the next 5, 10, 20 years? And then that can help you to begin to look at what are the things I need to change now, what are the habits I need to pick up, what are the knowledge I need to learn, and what are the things I need to learn, and all those other things will be coming together to give you more clarity on what to do. So we'll progress this conversation in the next video. See you some other time. Thank you.